What would you do if the city's most feared crime lord walked into your workplace and only had eyes for you? Would you run? Would you fight? Or would you feel the heat before you saw the flames? Grayhaven City looked like any other American metropolis. Glass towers, subway rattles, food trucks on the corners. But beneath its polished skyline lived a different ruler. Not a mayor, not a senator, a dragon. His name was Grayhaven. By day, he wore tailored suits and cold expressions. By night, he ruled the underworld. Clubs, shipping docks, high-rise deals. Nothing moved in Grayhaven without Kale's approval. They called him the Ember King. His enemies called him worse. But once, long before the blood and the fear, Kale had been a son. Born out of wedlock to a powerful dragon lord, Kale had grown up in secret, trained in shadows. His father, Lord Azrakar, had favored him, chosen him, promised him the throne of the hidden dragon dynasty that lived disguised among humans. Then Azrakar died, and everything burned. The legitimate dragon heirs, his father's true family, accused Kale of being an embarrassment, an illegitimate stain. They exiled him from the dragon citadel beneath the mountains, stripped him of his title, declared him unworthy. He was 17. That was the day Kale decided if he couldn't rule dragons, he would rule men. Years later, Grayhaven trembled at his name, but on a rainy Thursday night, something unexpected happened. He walked into a rundown diner on 8th and Marshall and saw her. Lena Morales worked double shifts at Rosie's diner. She wore her hair in a loose braid, had flour on her apron half the time, and carried exhaustion in her eyes like a second skin. Medical bills for her mother, rent overdue, dreams postponed. She didn't look up when Kale and his men entered, until the diner went silent. Forks paused, conversations died. She turned, and their eyes locked. If you're reading this, pause for a second. Imagine being Lena, the most dangerous man in the city, staring at you like you're the only light in the room. What would you do? Lena did the only thing she could. She walked over. "What can I get you?" she asked, voice steady. Kale leaned back in the booth, amused. He had come to collect protection money from Rosie. Instead, he found himself studying the waitress. "You," he said calmly, "don't look scared." "I don't have the luxury," she replied. That answer did something to him. His men shifted uneasily. Their boss didn't linger. He didn't smile. He didn't tease. But he did now. He came back the next night, and the next. At first it was intimidation, or so he told himself. He'd tap the counter, ask for her by name, let his men glare at customers. But Lena didn't cower. She rolled her eyes, teased him back. "You're bad for business," she said once, crossing her arms. "You're bad for my concentration," he replied. Something was happening, and his gang noticed. Grayhaven, the ruthless Ember King, was softening. And in Grayhaven, softness was weakness. But neither Lena nor Kale understood something yet. Fire recognizes fire, and Lena Morales had no idea she was about to step into a world where dragons still ruled in secret. Stay with this story, because the flames are just beginning. If you think falling for a dangerous man is thrilling, wait until you discover he's not entirely human. Kale couldn't explain it. Lena wasn't like the socialites who chased power. She didn't flinch at his reputation. She didn't flirt with fear. She challenged him. "Why do you do it?" she asked one night as he lingered after closing. Do what? Scare people. Hurt them. You don't look like you enjoy it. He froze. No one had ever asked him that. You don't know me, he said coldly. Then let me, she whispered. That was the first crack in his armor. But cracks let things in and out. His gang grew restless. Marco, his right-hand enforcer, confronted him. You're distracted, Marco warned. We've got rivals watching. The council is watching. Kale stiffened. The Dragon Council. They were real, hidden, powerful. And if they discovered he was growing attached to a human, it would not end well. One night, everything changed. A rival gang ambushed Kale near the docks. Bullets tore through the night. Lena had stayed late, and against all logic, followed when she sensed something wrong. She saw it. She saw him cornered, saw his body convulse, saw fire erupt from his skin. Wings of molten gold tore through his suit. Eyes burned like suns. The air itself screamed. He wasn't human. He was a dragon. The rival men didn't stand a chance. When the flames died down, Kale turned and saw Lena. She stood frozen. Smoke curled around her. He expected horror. Instead, she whispered, "You've been alone for a long time, haven't you?" He staggered back. "You should be afraid." "Of you?" Her voice shook, but not from fear. "You're the one who was thrown away." And just like that, the most feared man in Grayhaven felt seen. Really seen. That night he told her everything. The exile, the betrayal, the throne stolen from him. Lena listened, and then she made a decision that would change both their lives. "I'll help you take it back," she said. "You don't even believe in dragons." "I believe in injustice," she replied, "and I believe you're more than this." "But if I do this," he warned, "I can't be the Mafia boss anymore." "Then don't," she said. "Be better." Pause for a moment. Would you risk everything for someone you barely understand? Lena would. And Kale? For the first time in years, he wanted redemption more than revenge. But reclaiming a dragon throne meant facing the family that cast him out, and they were far more dangerous than any human enemy. The war for his birthright had begun. Stay with them, because love is about to challenge fire itself.
Redemption is never easy, especially when your enemies breathe fire. Lena began researching old myths, corporate records tied to dragon families, hidden mountain properties owned by shell companies. She discovered the dragon elite operated through legitimate fronts, tech conglomerates, shipping empires, political donations. The head of it all? Lord Malrek Draven, Kale's half-brother. Cold, calculating, official heir. Kale hadn't stepped near dragon territory since his exile. "You don't have to do this," he told Lena. "Yes, you do," she corrected gently. "And you won't do it alone." Meanwhile, Marco grew suspicious. "You're planning something bigger than the streets," he said. "And if you leave this life, what happens to us?" Kale looked at his men, the family he built from ashes. "You can come with me," he said, "but we're done terrorizing this city." Some walked away, some stayed. Lena helped him negotiate peace with rival gangs, slowly dismantling the empire he built. It wasn't weakness, it was evolution. But Malrek noticed. A message arrived, a single black envelope sealed with molten wax.
Return, brother, if you dare. The Dragon Council had called him home. High in the ashen peaks beyond Grayhaven, the dragon citadel waited, and Lena insisted on coming. Humans aren't allowed, Kale warned. Then they'll learn to allow me. The council chamber glowed with ancient fire. The duel raged through sky and stone. The mountains trembled beneath the force of it, ancient granite cracking as two colossal forms collided in bursts of flame and fury. Ash spiraled into the air like a storm of dying stars, and the Dragon Council watched from the obsidian terraces carved into the cliffs. Malrek was ruthless, older, trained longer. His scales were darker, edged in crimson, his wings broader from centuries of disciplined combat. Every strike he launched was precise, calculated to wound, to dominate, to humiliate. He fought not just to win, but to erase. But Kale had something Malrek never understood: purpose. Each strike carried years of exile. Each roar carried Lena's belief in him. Every beat of his wings echoed the memory of being cast out, of watching the gates of his birthright close while the world he knew turned its back on him. He had once fought out of anger. Tonight, he fought out of conviction. Malrek's claws tore through the air, grazing Kale's flank. Fire collided mid-air in a violent explosion of red and gold. The sky itself seemed to split as their flames clashed, molten light reflecting off the jagged peaks. Then Malrek saw her. Lena stood below on the stone platform, wind whipping her hair, her small human figure fragile against the scale of dragon war. She did not run. She did not hide. She watched. And Malrek broke sacred combat rules. With a vicious snarl, he pivoted and aimed a killing blast straight toward her. The council gasped. Kale saw it in a fraction of a second, the trajectory, the intent, the betrayal of ancient law. Something inside him shifted. When Malrek aimed a killing blow toward Lena, breaking sacred combat rules, Kale unleashed something deeper. Not rage, control. His wings snapped wide. Golden fire erupted brighter than any dragon had seen in centuries. It was not wild or chaotic. It was focused, concentrated, deliberate. The blast intercepted Malrek's attack mid-air, swallowing it whole in a blaze of radiant light. The mountains glowed. The council shielded their eyes. Kale surged forward with terrifying precision. He twisted through smoke and flame, locked his claws around Malrek's shoulders, and drove him downward. Stone shattered beneath the impact as he pinned Malrek to the ground. The earth cracked, ash rained, and for a long, suspended moment, only Kale's golden flames illuminated the silence. "I don't want your death," Kale said, voice reverberating through stone and bone alike. "I want change." If you think falling for a dangerous man is thrilling, wait until you discover he's not entirely human. Kale couldn't explain it. Lena wasn't like the socialites who chased power. She didn't flinch at his reputation. She didn't flirt with fear. Even now, standing in the aftermath of Dragonfire, she looked at him not with terror, but with understanding. She had challenged him long before this night. "Why do you do it?" she had asked one evening at the diner when he lingered after closing. "Do what?" "Scare people. Hurt them. You don't look like you enjoy it." He had frozen then. No one had ever asked him that. "You don't know me," he had said coldly. "Then let me," she whispered. That was the first crack in his armor. But cracks let things in, and out. His gang had grown restless. Marco, his right-hand enforcer, confronted him more than once. "You're distracted," Marco warned. "We've got rivals watching. The council is watching." Kale had stiffened at that. The Dragon Council. They were real, hidden, powerful, and if they discovered he was growing attached to a human, it would not end well. One night, everything changed. A rival gang ambushed Kale near the docks. Bullets tore through the night. Lena had stayed late and, against all logic, followed when she sensed something wrong. She saw it. She saw him cornered, saw his body convulse, saw fire erupt from his skin. Wings of molten gold tore through his suit. Eyes burned like suns. The air itself screamed. He wasn't human. He was a dragon. The rival men didn't stand a chance. When the flames died down, Kale turned and saw Lena. She stood frozen. Smoke curled around her. He expected horror. Instead, she whispered, "You've been alone for a long time, haven't you?" He staggered back. "You should be afraid." "Of you?" Her voice shook, but not from fear. "You're the one who was thrown away." And just like that, the most feared man in Grayhaven felt seen, really seen. That night, he told her everything. The exile, the betrayal, the throne stolen from him. Lena listened, and then she made a decision that would change both their lives. "I'll help you take it back," she said. "You don't even believe in dragons." "I believe in injustice," she replied. "And I believe you're more than this." "But if doing this," he warned, "I can't be the Mafia boss anymore." "Then don't," she said. "Be better." Pause for a moment. Would you risk everything for someone you barely understand? Lena would. And Kale, for the first time in years, he wanted redemption more than revenge. The council watched in stunned silence. Mercy. Unheard of in dragon succession. Malrek yielded. By law, the throne passed. Kale Draven became Dragon Lord. But the first decree shocked them all. "The dragons will no longer hide in corruption," he declared. "We protect. We build. We coexist." Some protested, but the fire had chosen, and it burned gold. Lena stood beside him as crown flames circled his head. She didn't bow. She smiled, because she didn't fall in love with a dragon. She fell in love with a man trying to be better, and that is far more powerful. But power always demands sacrifice. Would the city accept a former Mafia king turned dragon lord? Would the dragons accept a human at his side? Only time would tell. Keep reading, because love isn't finished yet. Back in Grayhaven, whispers spread. The Mafia empire dissolved peacefully. Businesses were restored. Protection turned into partnership. Kale used dragon wealth to rebuild neighborhoods he once controlled. Lena opened a community center using dragon funds, education, healthcare support, shelter programs. People began to see change, not fear, hope. But not everyone approved. Remnants of the underworld saw opportunity in Kale's transformation. One final rebellion rose. Marco returned, torn between loyalty and resentment. "You changed," Marco said. "I had to," Kale answered. Gunfire erupted, but this time, Kale shielded civilians, not territory. Lena stood in the chaos, refusing to run. When Marco saw her protecting strangers instead of hiding, something shifted. He lowered his weapon. "You really mean it," he muttered. "Yes," Kale said. "Join us." And slowly, the last shadow of the old empire faded. Grayhaven began to heal. And at the top of the tallest building, no longer as conqueror, but as guardian, Kale stood with Lena. "Are you afraid?" he asked. "Of dragons?" she smiled. "No." "Of loving one?" She took his hand. "Never." But love still had one more test. Because ruling dragons is easier than giving your heart completely. And Kale had never truly allowed himself happiness. Until now. Stay with them, because the final flame is the brightest.
Power changes people, but love transforms them. The Dragon Council proposed tradition. To secure the bloodline, Kale must marry a dragon noble. It was not presented as cruelty. It was presented as necessity. Ancient law, preservation of power, continuity of flame. The council chamber beneath the ashen peaks glowed with solemn fire as elder dragons spoke of heritage, alliances, stability. To them, it was simple. A dragon lord must strengthen the lineage. Emotion had no place in governance. Lena overheard. She had not meant to. The corridors of the citadel carried echoes strangely, and dragon voices carried even stranger. She stood in the shadows as robed figures discussed Kale's future as if it were already decided. A noble daughter from a powerful house, a strategic union, an heir of unquestionable blood. Silence stretched between her and Kale that night. Back in their chambers overlooking Grayhaven, neither spoke at first. The city lights shimmered below like scattered stars, unaware that ancient laws were threatening something fragile and human. "You don't have to choose me," she said quietly. The words cost her more than fear ever had. She had faced dragons. She had stood in fire. But this, offering to step aside for his kingdom, hurt in a deeper way. "I already did," he replied. His voice was steady, certain. No hesitation, no calculation. "But your kingdom means nothing without you." He did not say it softly. He did not whisper it like a confession. He declared it like truth carved into stone. For years, Kale had fought to reclaim a throne denied to him. He had bled for it, burned for it, lost for it. But loving Lena had changed the measure of power in his heart. A throne without her would only be another exile. He called the council. The summons echoed through dragon territory. Elders gathered, wings folding into human forms, ancient eyes glowing with expectation. They assumed compliance. Tradition had never been challenged by a ruling lord before. Kale stood before them crowned in golden flame. "In the old world," he declared, "strength meant purity. In the new world, it means unity." A murmur rippled across the chamber. He did not lower his gaze. "For centuries, we have hidden behind bloodlines and pride. We called it survival. But survival without evolution is decay. I will not rule a dying legacy." He chose Lena, not for rebellion, but for love. He did not frame it as defiance. He framed it as vision, as future, as courage. Some dragons left. They folded their wings and withdrew to distant territories, unwilling to bend ancient laws. To them, Kale's choice was dilution, weakness, betrayal of heritage. Others stayed. The younger houses, the thinkers,
the ones who had watched humanity grow and innovate and survive without scales or fire. They saw possibility where elders saw risk. A new era began. It did not begin with fireworks or declarations to the human world. It began quietly. Policy shifts, hidden investments, protective interventions where disasters loomed. Dragons no longer exploited human systems. They reinforced them. And for the first time, dragons stepped into alliance with humanity, secretly guiding, protecting, building. Grayhaven became something extraordinary. Crime dropped not from fear, but from opportunity. Infrastructure flourished. Neighborhoods once abandoned thrived with new funding and silent guardianship. The undercurrent of corruption that once defined the city slowly dissolved. And at the center of it stood a former Mafia king and a diner waitress who believed in second chances. Kale still carried fire in his veins. Lena still carried compassion in her heart. Together, they balanced power with mercy, strength with empathy. She never wore a crown of flame, but every dragon in the citadel knew who truly reshaped their future. If this story has taught you anything, let it be this: never underestimate the power of compassion, never assume monsters can't change, and never walk away from love because it seems impossible, because sometimes the impossible has wings. Years later, Grayhaven glittered brighter than ever. No more underworld terror, no more hidden cruelty, only quiet strength. The streets that once echoed with fear now hummed with late-night laughter, food trucks steaming on corners, music drifting from rooftop bars. Storefronts that used to shudder before sunset now glowed warmly past midnight. Children ran through parks built on land that had once hosted illegal deals. Murals painted over old gang markings told stories of rebirth, of fire turning into light. Kale often stood at the balcony overlooking the city he once ruled through fear. The tower beneath him was no longer a fortress of intimidation. It had become a headquarters for protection, for alliances between dragon and human leadership working silently behind the scenes. From this height, he could see the river slicing through downtown, the silver bridge lights reflecting like scattered stars. The same city, the same skyline, but everything felt different. Now he ruled through protection, not with threats, not with whispered violence, but with watchful strength. Dragons patrolled the skies unseen, guardians rather than predators. Crime syndicates that once thrived in shadows had either reformed or vanished. Businesses flourished without extortion. Families walked freely without glancing over their shoulders. Power had not left Kale. It had simply changed shape. Lena joined him. She stepped onto the balcony with the same quiet presence she always carried, steady, grounding, real. The wind tugged gently at her hair as she moved beside him. She had traded diner aprons for tailored coats now, but nothing about her warmth had changed. She still saw people the way she always had, not for what they feared, but for what they could become. "You ever miss the old life?" she teased. Her tone was light, but her eyes searched his face. Not because she doubted him, because she understood him. She knew the weight of transformation. She knew what it meant to leave behind a version of yourself that once felt necessary. He wrapped his arms around her. The city lights reflected in his eyes, no longer burning with rage, but with something steadier. Peace didn't make him weaker. It made him certain. "I only regret not meeting you sooner." He meant it, not as a romantic line, not as charm, but as truth. For all the power he once held, all the territory he conquered, none of it compared to the quiet strength of this moment, standing beside the woman who had seen a dragon beneath the violence and chosen to believe in the man. Below them, the city thrived. Sirens no longer meant turf wars, they meant ordinary emergencies. Construction cranes dotted the skyline, building rather than rebuilding. Community centers buzzed with evening classes. Hospitals received funding without fear of interference. The pulse of Grayhaven had shifted from survival to growth. Above them, dragons flew unseen. Golden streaks cut silently across the clouds, invisible to human eyes, but constant in vigilance. The ancient order had evolved, no longer isolated in arrogance, no longer manipulating from shadows. They protected infrastructure, deterred threats beyond human reach, ensured that balance remained steady. And between those worlds stood two people who chose love over pride, redemption over revenge. Kale had once believed strength meant domination. Lena had once believed survival meant endurance alone. Together, they rewrote those definitions. Strength became protection. Survival became partnership. Fire became warmth instead of destruction. Their love had not erased the past. It had transformed it. So here's the question for you. If fire knocked on your door tomorrow, would you run? Or would you open it? Would you judge it by the heat alone? Or would you look deeper, past the sparks, past the smoke, and ask what shaped it, what wounded it, what it might become if given a chance? Because sometimes, the most dangerous man in the city isn't the villain. Sometimes, he is the exile, the misunderstood heir, the one who was told he was unworthy and believed it for too long. Sometimes, he is the storm waiting for someone brave enough to stand still in the wind. He's just waiting for someone brave enough to love him. Not blindly, not foolishly, but fiercely, with boundaries, with belief, with the courage to demand better, and the compassion to help him rise. And that is how a dragon reclaimed his throne and his heart.